Welcome back to another episode of the Panther Pod. Today we are here with professor and journalist and best-selling author Jeff Pearlman. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Also, former Panther advisor. I used to be the
Oh
advisor.
yeah?
So I'm
Formerly what could have been my boss as well. Would you give a little rundown about your history in journalism, what got you inspired in that, and what got you over to Orange County?
yeah. So I've been a journalist for a long time. I went to University of Delaware, was really focused on journalism as a student. Graduated, got my first job writing as a food and fashion writer for the Nashville Tennessean way back when, the daily newspaper in Nashville. My dream was sports. I eventually moved to Sports Illustrated, became a baseball writer at Sports Illustrated. This is when the magazine was, like kind of a big deal, and you would travel all over the country covering baseball. Later, had a bunch of different places I worked. Worked at a newspaper in New York City called Newsday. Wrote for ESPN. Wrote for The Athletic. Wrote for Yahoo. I've written 11 books, mainly sports. My last one was about Tupac. And we moved to California, my wife and I, from New York 11 years ago with my kids. I'd been working on a book about the Lakers called Showtime, and was spending a lot of time in Southern California, and really like the idea of like not having to shovel a driveway, not having to deal with cold weather, just kind of enjoying it, and convinced my wife against all her judgment to move out here. So, and then I started just teaching on the side at Chapman, usually just like one class a year, just for kind of enjoyment.
Is it fair to say that you always wanted to be a journalist, or how did that inspiration come about?
I mean, I think there are a lot of sports writers who recognize at a young age they're not going to be playing for the Yankees. Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to be quarterback in the Rams. I was never going to be playing first base for the Yankees. I was a mediocre high school and college runner. How far can you go with that? But I really love sports and I really love communicating. And I grew up, reading the newspaper nonstop. My dad wrote a book when I was a kid that really inspired me. And I really think it's cool how you can make a difference and you can impact people and you can entertain and you can inform and you can sometimes outrage. And it just gives you an opportunity to communicate in a really unique way to a widespread audience. So for me, um, I've always loved writing, and it seemed like a really good way to make a career of it.
You were saying Sports Illustrated was very much a prestige brand back in the day.
Mhm.
And I'm just a little bit curious about what it was like being a journalist for them back then, traveling. What were some experiences you had, and what did you learn while you were there?
It was amazing. It was the heyday. People wouldn't even recognize what it was. I mean, so this is at the time when the magazine came out every week, and getting on the cover of Sports Illustrated for an athlete was an enormous, enormous deal. An enormous deal. And the swimsuit issue was selling a gazillion copies a year. And
Yeah.
there was all this talk. Who's going to be on the cover of this? Is it going to be Tyra Banks or Heidi Klum, whoever? The whole thing. SI was just the king. And you would, a good example is we're in February now, or we're in March now, but like spring training, I was a baseball writer. They'd send you down to Florida or fly you to Arizona for a bunch of weeks. Everything was paid for. They'd rent you a car. I used to drive a convertible around Florida. And you were just like every day you would go to a different spring training site, and athletes were thrilled to talk to you because you were Sports Illustrated. Or you would cover the All-Star games and cover the World Series and you'd be in the press box and you'd be on the field and you'd be sitting in the dugout with Tony Gwynn, or you'd be, you know, talking with the managers in the office. And it was just this glorious, like, for a kid who grew up loving sports and living with like SI and the New York Times and the Washington Post, like being able to live it and experience it during its glory period was otherworldly.
And what was your experience like actually interviewing athletes? How were you able to really build a rapport with them and connect and get them to be vulnerable with you?
I mean, it's not even a matter. You never thought of it as vulnerability. I have to say, back in the day, it was more like number one, athletes knew what their job. Part of their job was dealing with the media. Like that was just part of it. Number two is if you showed up. Number two, it helped that you were from a big entity. Like if you were from Sports Illustrated,
Yeah.
it kind of mattered to them. And number three is I always did my research. So I wouldn't show up to interview someone and not know anything about him. If I was speaking to the third baseman for the White Sox, before I would know everything about this person. I would know his background, where he went, what his kids' names were, where he went to college, where he went to high school, what he was hitting, what his favorite food was, what his favorite movies were. Like you would do the research so when you showed up, they could tell you were professional and you were invested in this assignment. And that was the key. And I ended up enjoying many great relationships professionally with athletes who just knew you were a pro and you were doing this for the right reason and you had a love of writing, a love of baseball, and you worked for an entity that was going to do them justice.
I'm really curious to learn about why you pivoted out of sports and over to the Truth OC. How did that come about?
Um, so I'm a very, very liberal guy from New York, and I grew up in a very liberal environment with liberal parents, and I moved out to Orange County, California. I do love it here. And it's kind of interesting because, in a way, when I lived in New York, I was surrounded by everyone who probably had the same political beliefs I did. Like 9 out of 10 of my neighbors, I'm sure, were right with me. And you move out here and it's more 50-50. And it's actually kind of exciting because it gives you an opportunity to talk to people who don't think like you do, to see the way different people think, to maybe have interesting dialogues with folks with, completely different belief systems. And what bothered me um, was it used to be back in the day, newspapers like the Orange County Register and the LA Times would cover local politics very intensely, and they would do it with a lot of detail. And now they stopped. They've cut their funding. You don't see reporters at school board meetings. You don't see them at city council meetings. You just don't see it. And I just thought, I don't know. I know how to report. I know how to write. I work for myself. I'm going to start a website. I'm just going to cover Orange County politics. I'm going to be open about it. I'm covering from a left side perspective, but I would not be afraid to bash, dump on, criticize Democrats and liberals. And also, I won't be afraid to praise Republicans if they do well. So I just started getting into it and it built very quickly. And I had a moment a few months ago when I was walking with my son Emmett in San Clemente. And I get recognized for sports a decent amount, like not a ton, but enough. And I'm walking down the sidewalk, and a woman goes, "Hey, are you Jeff Pearlman?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I love your political writing." And I was like, "Oh my God, someone is actually recognizing me for political writing," which is kind of cool. So I just started something new and just said, I want to make a difference, or at least want to have an impact.
For sure. And what would you say the mission statement of Truth OC actually is?
To expose the crazy people. Like, there's so many nuts in politics locally. It's insane. People who, I mean, just being honest, like, there's a group called the Moms for Liberty, and they're very involved in local school boards and sort of a very like pro Christian, pro private education, anti reading, anti anything LGBTQ plus related. And there's this real infiltration of school boards. And I don't mind these people, like everyone has a right to have their opinion, but I feel like they've had a very corrosive impact on education in Orange County. So for me, writing about these people, writing about the city council members who are horrified by the idea of acknowledging Martin Luther King or acknowledging Harvey Milk, like I just want people to see what's going on and who these people are, because otherwise they just fly under the radar.
And do you think that this has gotten radicalized in recent years, or has this always been the state of Orange County?
Uh, it's interesting. Orange County used to be super, 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 super red. Then it
Yeah.
became purple. Now it kind of tilts a little more blue. It's a little more liberal than is conservative in a lot of spots. But I do think there has been, thanks to the MAGA movement, thanks to the infiltration of money, thanks to the infiltration of churches that are now, the hard right churches that are now dipping their feet far too much, in my opinion, into politics. I think you do see a cult like, a kind of terrifying cult like infiltration of local politics by hard right political leaders. I do not like it. I don't think I wouldn't want my synagogue. I don't belong to a synagogue, but if I did belong to a synagogue, I wouldn't want my liberal synagogue to be getting involved in politics. I don't think places of worship should be getting involved in politics at all. I see that a lot, and it bothers me.
A lot of Chapman students aren't very aware of what's going on in local politics. Would you give a little bit of a rundown of what's recently happened and kind of what the state of local politics is right now?
The biggest change we had recently is the congressional redistricting, which actually helped the Democrats a lot in the state of California. But there's a 40th congressional district, which is coming up pretty soon for election. Um, and all of a sudden, it was a toss up, and now it's very hard Republican. So that's kind of interesting. You have a lot of school board elections coming up over Orange County with a lot of hard right candidates who really want to privatize schools, who want to make charter schools that are religious based. But I also want to emphasize, and I really mean this, if you're a student at Chapman and you're here from San Francisco or you're here from Detroit or you're here from Florida and you don't know two bips about local politics, that's totally fine. Like you are allowed to go through your life and not always worry about everything going on in the world. You are allowed to focus on your studies and do that stuff. I never want it to come off like people come here and they need to be focused on California politics. It's totally their right to be utterly indifferent to it.
You've talked a lot about is it the Capistrano United School
Right.
District?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and is it the board elections that's going on?
So the Capistrano Unified School Board District is near where I live in Laguna Niguel, Aliso Viejo, etc. And
Yeah.
they're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. It was taken over by these four truly crazy people. It used to be just a normal school board where you didn't have to worry about people's politics. Like ideally, the thing is, ideally, a school board should be people who are just focused on education and they trust the teachers and they trust the principal. It's just about education. That's it. Not about politics, not about your political leanings. I believe that as a liberal as much as I do from a conservative side. My politics should have nothing to do with the school board. But this one school board in particular has gone uber crazy. The the recently one of the school board members used the N word during a meeting, and then she was very defensive about it. And they had a they had a they conspired with a guy from a hate group to come in and kind of screw up one of the meetings just to get people angry. And the thing is, if you write about local politics, you do realize it's not that different than sports. Like entering a locker room back in the day, it would be crazy, and people would be, back in the day when I covered baseball, guys were juiced up on steroids, and you never knew if you were going to get someone in a good mood or a bad mood or wanted to punch you or blah, blah, blah. It's kind of the same with local politics. It's just a big circus.
What do you think that shift went from it being nonpartisan over to this being so ideological and there being kind of outrageous
Um,
characters involved?
I think a lot of it, honestly, was the MAGA movement. And I think
Yeah.
there became this, like, MAGA is highly personal. Like, I don't think when George Bush was president, W. Bush, or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, or even Joe Biden, it was like, you either support my politics or you're terrible. Like, it wasn't really like that. I may disagree with you. We could have a heated disagreement, but it's not like you're a horrible person. You're a scumbag. You're a piece of crap if you do not believe in what I believe. And I do believe Donald Trump has allowed this thing to open up where it's you're either with me or you're the enemy. You're literally the enemy. That's how I view you. I never view political people I disagree with politically as the enemy, and I still don't. They're just people I disagree with. But that has changed. And that has infiltrated all through politics, school boards, Congress, assembly, city councils. And you see it here, like all these people on the school board, the one I'm writing about in particular, they're super MAGA. They refuse to acknowledge any different belief than their own. They are unwilling to concede or compromise. It's just become this. It's kind of sad. Like, how old are you?
I'm 22.
So, like, your life for the past 10 years. So, from the time you were 12 years old, this MAGA thing it is what politics are to you. And that's really sad because we should be able to disagree with our people we just disagree with. We should be able to disagree agreeably and have
Right.
debate. It doesn't mean you're an asshole. And I feel like that's been really ruined and it's gone everywhere in politics. In fact, interestingly, the one
Right.
place I feel like it hasn't corroded for the most part are sports. If you enter a sports locker room, NBA, NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, the athletes in there are from all different walks of life, but you almost never hear them talking politics. It's kind of refreshing
Right.
to walk into a sports. That's what bothered me about the whole NHL, the Olympic hockey thing lately with the Cash Patel in the locker room and Trump making the
Yeah.
call. It corroded something that was really beautiful. What are you doing, Cash Patel? Like they don't
Yeah.
even know who you are. What are you doing? He's like, we did it. It's not we, man. You didn't. What are you talking about? It's embarrassing.
So, would you talk a little bit about is it the MAGA library plaque?
Hmm. Huntington Beach. So basically,
Yes.
Huntington Beach is a while ago. They the city council, which is it's 7 members, it's all hard right. They decided the city would put up a library plaque to commemorate the 50th anniversary, I believe, of the Huntington Beach Library. Huntington Beach has a great library. So they're going to put up a plaque. Everyone's like, that's great, a plaque. Well, the idiots on the city council decided that they were going to do an acronym and it was going to start with M, like marvelous, amazing, great, astonishing. And like, that's almost what I'm talking about. There's no reason to do that. The local library has nothing to do with MAGA. It's like just poking a stick in someone's eye just to do it. I'm like, why? Like, why? They haven't even. The funny thing is, it was a huge fight. It was all over the news. People bashing people, and they never even put up the plaque. The plaque still isn't up. So
That's
it's
crazy.
like there are kids starving in this country, and we're worried about nonsense like this. You know?
Yeah. So, do you have any specific anecdotes about like the most ridiculous school board meeting or just local politics meeting that you've been involved with or witnessed?
Oh yeah, I went to one that it was just phenomenal. Phenomenally bad.
Yeah.
Capo Unified School Board. This is maybe 6 months ago. Okay. There's a guy who exists. I think he lives in Orange, named Frank Rodriguez, and he was the head of a group called Gays Against Groomers, which I don't even know what that means. And he's a gay man.
Yeah.
He's trying to say we're against groomers, and it's like, is there someone pro groomers? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So he's become this guy who's basically a paid for mercenary. He'll go to different events if you hire him, and he will cause a ruckus. So I'm at the school board event, and the Gays Against Groomers guy is there, and I happen to be there writing about this event. And it's a normal school board meeting, but this is the meeting after a school board member used the N word during the meeting. So you have a lot of people speaking out against the council member. There's a public speaking area where you have a session where anyone can say what they want, and you had a lot of people speak out against that woman. Well, the 5 MAGA members on the school board for the follow up meeting get this guy, Gays Against Groomers dude, to show up, and he's causing a commotion, and he's screaming at people, and he's barking at people. And then they enlist all these kids from a local church, one after another, kids who are in high school, to say how a liberal board member who is offended by the N word, she needs to resign because she's making a big deal out of this and it's not a big deal. And the whole thing was insane. It was absolutely insane. People are screaming at each other. The Gays Against Groomers guy is standing up and storming out, and you have these kids who don't know what the hell's going on. And I'm watching this thinking, like, what? Like, what are we doing here? This is supposed to be about education. This is bonkers. So that was pretty fun.
So, would you say that politics has kind of become more of a performance or a circus in recent years just to like draw clicks than it really is about? Because attention right now is the biggest currency, right?
100 million trillion percent. There are the only reason we know who Lauren Boebert is or Marjorie Taylor Greene is, or on the left, AOC. And I like AOC or Jasmine Crockett or
Yeah.
whoever. Like, they're all like representatives who have jobs to do, but they have mastered social media and they have mastered
Right.
this thing. And um, they're all gunning for that. Like, that is currency now, like, and it's
Mhm.
sad because most places, I think most voters equate visibility with power. And maybe there's a reason for that. But like, if you're a kind of quiet, soft spoken member of Congress, you're going to have a tough time running against someone who has a huge TikTok following and who
Yeah.
shows up on Fox News or MS Now. Like, it's so performative now. The other thing is, like, Congress is a crappy job. That's the thing people don't understand. Congress is a terrible job. You're in for 2 years. You run for a 2 year
Yeah.
term. As soon as you get elected, you're raising money again for your next election. Like, it is a nonstop conga line of asking for money. Get elected, ask for money. Get elected, ask for money. I don't know why anyone would possibly want this job. It's terrible.
This whole idea of visibility being the new currency, how does that affect journalism? And what do you think that has done to affect the state of journalism?
It sucks. It's bad. Like, you didn't grow up with this, but like, I grew up with, like, my idea when I entered journalism was I'm going to write for a magazine, and that'll be my
Yeah.
job. I'll literally write for a magazine. So I will. When I was writing for Sports Illustrated, Pedro Martinez of the Red Sox has a great whatever. I'm going to go out to Boston. I'm going to spend 3 or 4 days with him. I'm going to work on this story for a couple of days, and then there'll be this magazine with like a 5 page story on Pedro Martinez. Next week, I'm going to do someone else. Like, it was really joyful. Now, it's a stupid thing, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm on TikTok. I'm telling my stories on TikTok. I'm trying to survive like everyone else. I have a podcast.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube show. I have, an Instagram. Like, it sucks. And guys like Stephen A. Smith, guys like Skip Bayless, they've become like, just by barking loudest, they're the highest paid people in sports media, especially Stephen A. I hate it. This is not why I became a journalist, but I also have mouths to feed and college tuitions to pay.
So would you say this has kind of started the rise of independent journalism, though? In a sense, it kind of democratized it.
Sure, 100%. I mean, um, the number of Substacks that you see popping up from reputable journalists. I mean, when Don Lemon was arrested at the church in Minneapolis, he wasn't
Yeah,
reporting for CNN or MS Now or even Fox News. He was reporting as Don Lemon, and millions of people saw that. I have a YouTube show called Pressbox Chronicles that I started with a private company. It has nothing to do with Sports Illustrated or ESPN, but I'm up to 60,000 followers. Like you're generating your own. It is cool that you can generate your own thing. The problem is, I think it becomes harder and harder and harder to know who you can actually trust. What is viable
yeah.
news versus what is. My mom, who's almost 84, she'll be like, I saw blank on Facebook. I saw that on Facebook. And I'm like, Mom, you can't trust anything just based on it being on Facebook, you know? But like it used to be you knew you could turn on the news, there's whoever, your anchor, and it's 6 o'clock and you can trust that person. Now it's so splintered, I think a lot of people don't know where to turn.
So the last thing I want to talk to you about is Gavin Newsom is obviously leaving as governor. And you've been doing a lot of interviews with different candidates. Is that correct?
Yep, correct.
Would you talk a little bit about the front runners right now and give a little bit of a rundown on the profiles of all the contenders right now that
Well,
you've spoken with?
there are the people I've spoken with so far are people who I would say have no chance of winning. Like I'm just being honest. I think there are front runners, and then but there are like 30 people running now. The Democrats are doing something really stupid right now. Like I said, I do not mind bashing Democrats.
Yeah,
Um, there's so many people who are running for office right now on the Democratic side that they risk canceling each other all out. And if you look at there are only two primary Republicans, and basically you have a general primary, and then you're going to have two left to run in the general. There's a risk that you're going to have two Republicans running in the general. I think it's unlikely, but it certainly could happen. Um,
yeah,
to me, Katie Porter is probably the front runner. The former Congresswoman, she has some issues, but she's pretty good. Um Betty Yee, former controller. I don't, I don't actually know who I'd say is a front runner. I'd say Katie Porter is probably the front runner. um, it's a weird group of people. It's a really weird group of people. I don't feel great about any of them yet. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about any of them yet. There's just way too many candidates to be honest with you so far. Steve Hilton is running. He's one of the leading Republicans. Um, Eric Swalwell's running. He's a congressman. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you. It's a mixed
right.
bag of crazies, you know.
And how did the Democrats put themselves in this position where there is no front runner or any obvious choice like there was with Gavin Newsom?
Um, I'm going to tell you what I've learned from politics. No doubt about it. The worst thing about politics is the level of ego is insane. It's absolutely insane. And like everybody thinks like there's a reason. So I went to University of Delaware. Joe Biden went to University of Delaware. I was a huge Joe Biden fan. People are like,
Yeah.
why didn't Joe Biden drop out after? Why didn't he just run one term and then not run again? And it's like, why would he do that? Blah blah blah. Answer: ego. Like all these people to be at a high level of politics for the most part, you have to have an enormously big ego, and you have to think you're the only one to do it. You know, I forgot to mention Tom Steyer, who's a multimillionaire, is also running as a Democrat, and it's probably also a front runner. But that's the thing. Like you're asking these people to drop out for the good of the race. Look, there are too many Democrats. You're polling at only 12%. Maybe you should drop out. Well, you're asking this person to drop out who raised a ton of money, who's been running for 6, 7 months now, who thinks he's the right person for the job. It's just ego, 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 ego. Politics and egos are just, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. I've never seen bigger egos. And I covered sports at the highest level. I've never seen bigger egos in politics. It's a joke. They're a bunch of egomaniacal douchebags, to be honest with you. It's
That's a
crazy.
good take.
Yeah.
So then going into journalism right now, I'm really curious about your thoughts as a professor for the advice you give your students who are interested in pursuing this field in kind of a contentious time for it.
It's not easy. this is the hardest time I've ever had, hardest period of my career as a journalist and also teaching journalism. It's kind of brutal. I always say this. I literally spoke with a friend of yours yesterday, and I said, the thing you can do is apply absolutely everywhere. So, like, don't just, number one, don't just limit yourself to California. That's a huge mistake. Like, I started my career in Nashville, Tennessee. Would that have been my first choice? No, but that's where they were looking. So,
Yeah.
apply absolutely everywhere. Get a list of every newspaper in the country and apply, every radio station in the country and apply, every sport, every team in the country and apply, every league in the country and apply. Like anywhere where they might have an opening. The thing
Yeah.
recent college grads have going for them is their cheap labor, and like all these news agencies are trying to cut and cut and cut costs. So someone's willing to work for 30,000 instead of 130,000. Well, that's if you have some skills, that's likable. So it's not impossible. It's an amazing career. I've loved 98% of being a journalist. It's the best decision I made in my life, probably. But it is hard to get into. I'm not gonna lie. It takes a lot of work, and you have to be. The other thing is you're coming out of Chapman. You're not coming out of Northwest Arizona State or Columbia, like or Missouri. Like Chapman is a awfully good communications school, but it's not known in the way those schools are. So like you have an extra thing. You just have to be willing to absolutely bust your ass, be as creative as possible when you're in college. If you really want to be a journalist while you're in college, you should be starting a podcast. You should be writing for the Panther. You should be starting a Substack. You should be active on TikTok. You should be active on every social media feed. Like you should be doing everything to have as wide a tool belt as possible when you're trying to enter the real world.
So your recommendation is not just to limit yourself to these companies, but also try and be an independent journalist?
Everything, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, I think like too many people in your shoes. Just as an example, are you a sports fan? I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, who's your baseball team?
I'm Dodgers.
Okay, too many people in your shoes. You're in your last year at Chapman. You're like, well, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to make it about the Dodgers. Like, there are 8 million Dodger podcasts out there. There are
Yeah.
8 million Dodger Substacks out there. There are 8 million people far more informed than David Jensen to tell me about the Dodgers, right? But
Right.
there's probably zero podcasts out there about Division 3 lacrosse, about the Chapman
Right.
Lacrosse Club, about left-handed relievers, about like you got to find your little things that you can be an expert on and you can own. And when you're applying, you show that to people, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't just some kid who started a podcast lazily about the Dodgers. It's it took effort and it took attention to detail and took focus, and he's a unique thinker and he's thinking outside the box. That's really, really important. You just need to be doing absolutely everything, like everything you need to be doing.
Before we close things out, I just want to ask if you have any final thoughts or any last things you want to talk about regarding local journalism, getting into this career, or just the state of Orange County.
Film of all, I love Orange County. I actually do.
Yeah.
Funny, early on when I moved here, way early on, I had a meeting in LA at a film production company. And the assistant was like, "Where do you live?" And I'm like, Orange County." He goes, "Orange County? Why would anybody want to live in Orange County? Well, who would want to live in Orange County?" And I was like, "Number one, you're an asshole. And number two, you've probably never been to Orange County because Orange County is great. And the beaches are better than LA and the food is pretty solid. And like, it's just great." So I'm a fan. I think there's an opportunity for people to I think there's a hole in coverage in Orange County politics. I just do. I think there's a hole, and there are places that are trying to do good work, my website included. And I just think if you're willing to like sort of dive into it, and maybe you don't care about Orange County politics, but like willing to sort of dive into it. Their Voice of OC has a lot of Chapman students who write for it. It's a really good website. I would happily have people write for me on my website. There are places out there. You're not going to get glory and you're not going to make a shitload of money, but it's a pretty good place to start.
Is there anything for us Chapman students who do care about local politics to do in the meantime while we're here?
Yeah, man, get involved. Look, another good thing to do if you just want to like some experience is reach out to whatever campaign. I don't care. Again, if you're a Republican, you're a Republican. If you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat. Reach out to the candidate. Say, "Can I intern for
Yeah.
your campaign?" Would you be willing to let me intern for your campaign? These people want manpower and they're desperate to get
Yeah.
young voters. So, like, reach out to a candidate who speaks to you. Say, would you mind if do you guys ever have college interns? I'm a so and so at Chapman. I'm really involved in Republican politics or Democratic politics. And reach
Yeah.
out, make connections. It's a great way to make connections. It's great resume fodder. It might lead to a job. And if your candidate wins, it really might lead to a job because they're going to need people in their office.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jeff.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good luck.